what a perfect chapter to have on Halloween. Like, it was funny enough, waking up to all these early chapters because there's a holiday next week in Japan. So they're doing, all the releases early this week. And, I woke up this morning reading all these chapters without even remembering that it was Halloween. I was just concerned, okay, let's read the new Black Clover. Let's read the new Chainsaw Man. This is awesome. And Chainsaw Man had a bit, dark setup, but it didn't feel like a Halloween thing when relating it to the date that this is up today. It's not like some giant holiday, but it's definitely one of the more fun ones. And especially because we know that Halloween has a significant time period now in Jujutsu Kaisen. So that all's well. Just, added an extra layer of fun to it. The fact that we got a chapter, typing up about Halloween coming out early, and for here on Halloween, I guess for Japan it would be like early Saturday, maybe like late Friday night, and then they get simultaneous release. So tomorrow early afternoon we're gonna get it. But as it was, we had Mahito leave off against Mekamaru, and he's saying up essentially he's won here. And the reason that is I was like, okay, maybe it's because he's got him locked inside of his territorial expansion. And again, I'm gonna go with territorial expansion because the official translations they're being a little inconsistent. I don't know how that guy who's translating it every week changes it from area expansion to domain expansion. I'm gonna go with territorial expansion. But here it is. He's saying like, oh yeah, as long as you're within my zone, within my within his territorial expansion, he doesn't have to make direct contact in order to mess with them. It's obviously not going to be as potent, but here, well, I can't say obviously since we don't really know whether or not that was the case. And it looked like Mekamaru was falling, but he was just kind of getting that set up, trying to give him that mindset. And he's just because Mahito is so, I want to say carefree for the most part. Just that, oh yeah, I've lost, falling down, and then Mahito probably would just, figure out what to do next. And that was exactly what Mekamaru planned on. And but here it is, he's like, oh yeah, Mekamaru, man, you probably weren't too sure whether or not I was going to use my territory because of how much power territory takes up to use. And he's like, yeah, well, Halloween is in 10 days, so 10 days of rest, I'll be fine recovering and, getting ready for that day. So Halloween, it had some significance, which is interesting because in Volume 0, Geto was using Christmas Eve as like a day to get everything ready for, what was it, the Night of 100 Demons parade. And here we have Halloween being used in this point, which I'm wondering if maybe like major holidays in Jujutsu Kaisen have to do with like something with something going with curses. I imagine Halloween's a good day for it, though, because that's when people are, watching scary movies, and they have this, mindset towards monsters and horror. Maybe that's like a day that generally ends up creating more cursed spirit than other. I think that and Christmas, because of how stressed people are around Christmas. But I like the idea of Halloween. It's just people, while thinking about all of these monsters, they're really just pretty much creating them with their cursed energy, with subconsciously, not even really subconsciously, without knowing about it to any degree. But once he's like, oh yeah, I've won, Mahito just turns and starts walking away. Here comes in Mekamaru, puts the spiked middle finger right through his chest from his mech, and then he explains exactly these little missiles, like these little explosives that he's been using. And he says essentially that it's like a sealing technique, and it's not just like, oh yeah, I put a seal on something. It's pretty much like a mini territory, and what it does is it cancels out other territories. So it's just some like, oh yeah, and anti-magic, I think, is the easiest way to really describe it. It's just a canceller, and that's how he's able to hurt Mahito, where he's using this canceller to mess with his ability. The fact that he physical damage isn't much to him. He needs soul damage, but obviously having this nullifier power is going to hit into cursed energy, and that's pretty much what Mahito's like requires in order to be as a cursed spirit. There's a whole description of this guy who essentially created this for his disciples to use against, defend themselves against evil people. And the guy Ashiya Sadatsuna, I'm gonna look into that because I'm wondering if that is an actual character from like Japanese lore, like mythos, history, whatever, or this is a character that is unique to the series, and we'll find out more about them later. Kind of like Kamo Noritoshi. That's a pretty hyped up guy. We haven't gotten to him yet, but we know that he was supposed to be like the worst shaman in their entire history. That he was essentially a stain on the name of the families. But that being said, when you have somebody who's got like a really powerful territory as Mahito, on top of like, oh yeah, normal attacks don't really hurt me, and he was clearly just running through like a lot of the stuff going on in front of him, like a lot of the smaller mechs, being able to mess with the bigger mech, and once he thought he was in that win state, that's exactly just the perfect time when to strike, because it's not like, oh yeah, just I'm distracted in general. It's like, no, I'm now in this deep dive of I won, yeah, I had this planned out, good for me. And right then Mechamaru, he's ready. He uses what is called a simple territory. He calls it Shinkage style. Does that mean God Shadow or Shadow God? I think it means God. God. Anyway, Mahito starts to swell up and looks like he bursts. And then right after that, you have his territory break down. And Geto is like kind of impressed. Like I figured there was going to be like an exclamation point, question mark, like, oh my god, simple territory. He's more like, wow, a simple territory. That's pretty cool. It's a territory that neutralizes other techniques, and including territories. And with a territory, that you're pretty much controlling the area, so you can drop attacks on other people that are going to hit him. Even says that Satoru can be hit by something like this. And oh god, that'll make me nervous if they use this in order to go against good old Satoru Gojo. But Mechamaru is like, okay, I still have one territory left and 9 years worth of curse power. I can do this. I can take down Geto. But in that moment, here's Mahito smashing through into his cockpit, smile up and happy, and looking like the human centipede, getting ready to go at him. And Mechamaru's just all in or nothing. He's got a little spike missile, and he's gonna go in, and its first one pretty much to touch the other one will win, will achieve victory. But then it goes back. You see some conversations between him and his team, and how much he really just he wants to be with them. He wants to be physically a part of their group instead of just having this robot conduit. But that life does not look like it's gonna happen because there's just blood oozing out of his mech, and it looks like he has bitten the dust. He is dead. And poor Mechamaru had tried so hard, but unfortunately for him, he ran into probably the two most dangerous people on the antagonist side together, now going against him. If it was someone like, if they sent Kechizu and Eso, back before Yuji and Kugisaki killed him, then, he'd be able to resist against those guys, fight against those guys, but against Mahito and Geto, no way. I mean, Geto is, he's like pretty much the main villain, I'd say, this series right now. I think Mahito will end up becoming the primary villain, and Sukuna, I don't know. I'm not too sure about Sukuna, so I'm wondering how his character will. I don't think he's gonna change. I feel like it's gonna be Yuji like stealing his power or something and absorbing it, or something or another. But while they're talking, they're like, okay, now we get pretty much gonna hammer out some issues with the screen, because we know they're getting ready for October 31st, and now they just skips right to it. October 31st, 2018. They're in Shibuya, and things are going to really heavy from here on, because this was the whole thing with Mechamaru was just a warm up. This was them just cutting off loose ends and really setting up for this big up and coming battle, this big just mayhem. And what makes me hype the most about it is it looks like Akutami is going to be going dark for this one. And this was a pretty spooky chapter, the way that Mito is even crawling this panel. I mean, usually I just use one panel, but I really wanted this page just because this page was so worth it to read this on Halloween instead of like every other series that came out this week for Shonen Jump. I could have easily waited until tomorrow and read them and been fine, as long as avoiding spoilers. And then the rough issue, it's like, okay, I got to review it for my channel and stuff, so people can tell me what they think. But this chapter, like, this is the one I'm most glad about reading on Halloween, because this wasn't like, it wasn't horror in like a raw sense. It wasn't. It didn't feel like a lot of the other shonen. It was the surprise, I think, that got it, and the tone shift. Whereas you have something that's a horror all the time, you kind of got little expectations. But when things are looking kind of like that, oh sweet, the turnaround moment, things are going right for me, and then Mojito out of nowhere ready and gonna destroy. I did like the reveal that in his area expansion, he doesn't even need to touch him in order to mute. That's pretty cool in itself, and really just gives a scarier level to Mojito. But as far as we know, the only character that seems to be able to like drop a territory and not shown any signs of fatigue or exhaustion by it is Satoru. So I'm guessing it's for even like high like skilled people like Nanami. I don't think there's a lot of I don't think there's just a massive abundance of what's going on there. And I really want to know what happens next in the chapter. I spaced out there for a minute and I completely forgot what I was talking about just because I was rambling. But yeah, I just so excited for the next chapter. So excited to see. Oh, I was talking about tones. Yeah, it was just that shift of tone where it went into such a darker theme and it went like all really creepy monster in this a very short lapse of time when it seemed like Mechamaru had it on the up and up. But Mahito wasn't going to let that. He's like, oh yeah, I'll just explode myself before it happens, take down my territory. You think that you killed me and that is causing it to close automatically. When in reality, he was just playing into Mahito's hands after Mahito figured out what was going on. And that makes a lot of sense to me because Mahito already fought Yuji, who could do soul damage, so I feel like he would have already thought of, oh, hey, I should probably have a means to counteract this apparent, like, dangerous soul damage that can kill me. So, then that comment below, tell me what you thought about the chapter, and give me your best guess of what's going to happen for Halloween. They're going to be sealing up Satoru, maybe letting loose like another giant mass of curses in order to cause distraction for something else going on. Or is it something that will possibly awaken, well, not awaken, give the reins back to Sukuna so they can talk to him for a bit in Yutani? Who knows? Other than that, I really appreciate if you thumbs up the video, but for the like button, subscribe button, comment below, and check out my other videos. But I appreciate it. Already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.